What just happened? I'm Dan. That's Julia. That's Backface. And that's Vex Electronica, our special guest for this episode. And today we're covering episode 5 of Presumed Innocent called Pregame. Before we start, it's your last chance to win this awesome t-shirt for the 4th of July giveaway. The most interesting comment, the comment that gets us going, the most wins. There's currently a leader. The pinned comment from last week is the leader. So if you want to go see your competition, go check it out. But the best one, we're going to announce the winner next video. So last chance to win this tee. That being said, how did everybody enjoy this episode? What do you guys think, Jules?
I liked it. I thought it was good. Had a little bit more tension, I think, than last episode. It gave me a little bit more than last episode.
Vex, what do you think?
I had a lot of problems with this episode, and it's not so much the way the episode was executed, but it's more where some of the characters are going now. That's all.
Okay. All right, Backface.
I like this episode a lot, but mostly because it just confirms my theories to myself.
I
Yeah.
agree with that, and I don't know if we have the same theories, but I think you can tell by my show notes who I'm aiming at right now.
No, I think we're on the same page.
To see our show notes, just join our Discord. Any level of membership gets you into our Discord. So if you want to pay $1 or whatever,
Trust me, it's worth it.
We're all in it, so you can talk to us. So all right,
it's fun.
That being said, I enjoyed this episode for a couple reasons. I'll say why when we get into the recap. So let's start that right now. So kicks off with Rusty still whooping on Brian, and then he tells Barb that Brian's not going to go to the police. He was kind of convinced of that. He was right. What do you guys think he was so confident about that?
Well, because he doesn't want to bring attention to himself.
Also, like he even says later in the episode too, like he doesn't want his wife to know that he was sleeping around with prostitutes at some point. So it's like, going to the cops. It's like, oh, well, why are you at the cops? And the beans just kind of come out.
That's true.
I thought it was a little weird that he would go to the cop's house, beat him up, or threaten his family, and not want to be. But
bad move.
He doesn't seem like the smartest dude in the world, so I could take it.
Well, there's stuff that happens with Brian later. We'll get into it, see what you guys think about him. So then Tommy's looking at photos of Rusty at Carolyn's, looking mad jealous. There's something with him I want to talk about later. Eugenia walks in, and then he gets all weird with her. He was like, did you have a thing with Rusty? Did you ever kiss him?
What is it with you two? You ever kiss him?
And she's like, fuck you, dude. Like, that makes no sense, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Inappropriate, irrelevant. Go fuck yourself.
Then he says he just needs professional objectivity, and she's like, well, then maybe you should take off on this case then. And I thought that was pretty cool for her to say that.
Love it.
If professional objectivity is really a concern, perhaps you should recuse yourself.
And then he goes, with his pompous ass self. He says DeLay and himself valued loyalty above all. So what's that for? He's like trying to be like, hey, you scratch my back, we'll promote you type of thing. Is that what he was trying to say?
Yeah.
I think it was less we'll promote you and more we won't fire you.
That too. Yeah.
It felt both ways to me. Like he was like, hey, I could fire you if you're not loyal, but also if you play ball.
Yeah, true. Okay, so that's what he's trying to do there. And then we see Raymond, his entrance into the episode, he burps and farts. and then
I love that. You got that real raw Raymond,
Yeah, and then he gets his head popped by Victoria Newman from The Boys, and then realizes it's all a dream. And then his wife's like, dude, you're having all these nightmares. What do you think they're pointing to? Rusty's fucking guilty. She's like sure of it. She's sure that he's guilty. And he again says, no, he didn't do it. So Raymond has his back. And a lot of people in the comment section, some of the best comments that are potential winners of this shirt are saying that Raymond is the killer. And that is pretty interesting to me. I never thought about that. I don't think so, but it's cool to wonder about that.
It would actually, that would make sense given like what a visceral reaction he's kind of having to this
whole thing.
I was just
thinking that.
Yeah.
I think that he knows it doesn't look good for Rusty, and he already feels guilty knowing that nothing he does is really going to help him. You know what I mean? He knows he has a losing case.
When I think, if I recall properly, his wife mentioned something about how he didn't want to see Carolyn and Rusty. She was like, you should have known. You're like one of the best lawyers and detectives or whatever that I know. And I think he feels somewhat guilty that he didn't know beforehand, and he could have somehow prevented this whole situation if he had known.
There was that line that he says to Rusty, I think it was in episode 4, about the difference between, was it guilt and
shame.
And shame.
shame,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that actually would put that quote into better context too, if he were the one that did it.
It's just something to
It's
think
true.
about for sure.
Yeah,
Something to
yeah.
think about. So then Rusty, he heads over to Brian's, and it looked like Brian and Laura left, like they got in a car and left, and I think they did.
Mm.
But then while he's sneaking out back, Brian comes up from behind him and he's like, "Yo, dude, I'm gonna call the cops." And he's like,
Fine, why don't I drive you there? We can fill out the report together.
"Fuck you, you're not gonna call the cops."
The hell is wrong with you?
And he's like, "I just want to talk," but we don't see a talk take place. But I'm guessing this is when they set up the meeting for he comes in later. I guess that's all they
Mhm.
talked about.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I got. Yeah.
And then Raymond is pissed that Rusty assaulted and trespassed. And he's like, "Don't worry, he's not going to do shit about it." And then Raymond says, "Hey, you're in a spiral." And then he's like, "Here, tell Maya your bullshit on Liam Reynolds." So he pitches that. He says, "I know it's a reach, but not really a reach if you think about it."
And Ratzer, his semen was at the homicide scene. So it's not the fucking reach that you're making it out to be.
Liam Reynolds had Bunny Davis killed in the same manner. Brian's sperm was on her, even though it was an older sample. Maybe they're linked up and maybe they took care of this together. It's possible to get payback for Liam Reynolds being put in prison. So, they're not really buying it. And he's really wondering if Ratzer and Reynolds even know each other. And he says, "Well, guess what, guys? You can talk to him tomorrow because Ratzer's coming in tomorrow." So then they're all kind of like, "Okay,
What? Yeah.
I guess we're going to talk to him."
This whole interaction, because Maya just kind of like deadpans, like, "Well, this isn't our case." And I remember back in episode 2 when they started thinking that Rusty was it was the same thing where they brought up the Bunny Davis case and everything and how there was a sperm sample,
Yeah.
and they were just like, "Well, that's not the case that we're assigned to."
Which
So
is true, but that doesn't mean that I can't create some kind of reasonable doubt.
No,
Yeah.
for sure. But it just, for me, it kind of points out Rusty really isn't that good at his job because he seems to be very brash. Like, even though this is someone he knows and someone that he loved and all that stuff, that's
Yeah.
fine. But like, he can't kind of just be like unbiased about things. He can't be cool about things. He attacked
No, not at all.
the lab tech a few episodes ago too. He's chasing down leads when he shouldn't be doing anything whatsoever. He beat up a man outside the front of his house.
Mhm.
It
He's just
like more and
continually
more.
making things worse for himself. Yeah.
Yeah, and more and
digging a
more, I'm
hole.
just
I
like,
mean,
did Rusty do it? Kind of deal.
Maybe it's not so much that he's not good at his job. He may be good as a detective. He's just not good at being on the other side of the table. I believe it was from this scene. Maya said, she pointed out that they were almost the same, the way that
Yeah.
Carolyn
tied up.
and Bunny were tied up.
Yeah.
So like, I'm wondering if that's pointing to like it not necessarily being linked to Liam,
Yeah.
or
Agreed.
or it's. I think at the same time it could lead to him relaying that to somebody, and because it was someone he related to, they screwed it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were trying to do it, but they didn't really know how to
Right.
do it exactly. So they tried
Right,
to
so I'm not-
emulate it a little bit. Yeah.
I'm not really sure where
Could
where
go
I'm
either
feeling
way.
it's going, but
Could go either way. All right, and then we get a flashback to Carolyn and Tommy. I really enjoyed this scene because there's lots of people in the comment section about Tommy saying, "Hey, I kind of think it's him, but it would be kind of too obvious." But as of last week, I thought it was him. He could be that guy that was making her uncomfortable just because the way they were talking. He was like, "Did you not want to work with me?" And she was like, "Nah, I just preferred Rusty because..."
If I were to second chair, then I'd rather be with Rusty since he's chief deputy prosecutor. And career-wise,
And
I
he
absolutely
says-
think that's who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that made her uncomfortable because then he's like, "You specifically said you don't want to work with me. That's what I'm mad about here." And Carolyn's like,
I didn't say that. Maybe I was misconstrued.
"Come on, dude."
The
Why make
stalking
this awkward?
line? Come
The
on.
stalking line. Yeah.
Hey, Tommy,
Hey, Carolyn.
you're stalking me?
I'm sorry.
So,
You stalking me? Yeah, I'm stalking you. All right,
It-
creepy ass.
it lit the flame more on my suspicions of Tommy. And it made me more suspicious of that scene. I'm glad we got that scene.
I hate the way my brain works because, of course, now I'm like, but maybe that's what they want me to think.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Yeah, the way that they injected that scene in there, as well as the flashback with Carolyn, I just kind of thought, well, this is a weird thing to drop 5 episodes in.
It makes sense. It just came back that you specifically didn't want to work with me.
We'll see what happens with that, but hopefully we get more scenes between those two as the series goes forward. And then Delay goes to Tommy. He brings up the Liam Reynolds thing. He's like, "Well, have we looked into it?" And Tommy's like, "He's in prison. Like, what's there to look into? If anything comes up, I'll be all over it. And Tommy says, it's a dead end. Let's focus on Rusty. So
Yeah.
that's just where
Tommy
he's
is
at.
real quick to brush off that.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
It was Liam. He killed both of them. Or well, he killed Bunny. I still think it was Tommy.
He killed Bunny. He's in prison.
It was
Yeah.
Tommy.
So Barbara goes back to the bar to see Clifton, but he's not there. So then she calls him and he's like, I was hoping you'd call. She says it's a bad idea. He says a line about regretting the decisions we don't make. I'll clip it in.
Who was it who said we regret the ones we don't make?
We see her getting ready. So obviously the phone conversation went in his favor. She goes to see him. They're at an art show. They flirt some more. She finished his quotes about regrets and says, who said it?
It was Carol. In the end, the only choices we regret are the ones we didn't take.
And he's like, I don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. She's like, I want to, but I shouldn't, but I want to. And then they make out. So I saw that from a mile away. I think they're actually, they're still going to bone too, I think.
I think so too. Yeah.
The only thing I thought about that scene was funny was just when he gets up too close and he's like, I don't want to make the first move. Like, I don't want to do anything to you. And then he just like
corny
grabs her face and kisses
Right.
her. And I was like,
he makes the first move. Like,
right, dude.
Well, he didn't want to, though. That's the important thing to remember.
Also, the height difference. That's that shit I dream of, bro. God damn.
Right?
All right. And Brian's there. He's in for questioning, and they bring up his sperm being on Bunny Davis. And he's like, could I have had sex with her? Possibly, yeah. I've had sex with many prostitutes. You know, the thing is, my wife, she had 3 kids, and she doesn't really want to have sex anymore, and I have needs. And I didn't kill anyone, and I wasn't involved, and I have no idea who this guy is that you're showing me the picture of. And they're like, you sure you don't know him? We can kind of help you out if you know him.
Look, I don't know this man.
We know you were there.
I never seen him before, and I had nothing to do with that.
And then he kind of denies it, and that's that. So, did you guys believe him?
He
I
seems
believe
pretty
it.
honest to me. I believe him.
Yeah, I believe him too. But now, like, this scene makes me wonder because it's the same situation we're seeing play out again now, right? Another person was there, but someone else got convicted of killing that prostitute. Now we're back to the current day. Clearly, someone else killed Carolyn, but there's traces of Rusty being there, sort of deal. So now, actually, maybe that gives more credit to the Tommy did it theory more than anything, because he's clearly one of those guys that's willing to do a lot just to get his career to move forward.
I thought this was a good written scene to show, like when we were talking before about Maya saying that this isn't their case. I kind of took it more like less as the Bunny Davis case isn't their case and more as the case they're going to make for Rusty isn't the case of another suspect, but they want to make the point of that there isn't actually enough evidence or anything to tie him to the murder itself.
Yeah, that's
I thought
what
this
they're
was a
going
good scene to show that we're like, this isn't the case because it's kind of flimsy and you're going to have to convince a bunch of people and connect all these dots that they're unaware of other cases and things where they just think that their best bet is to prove Rusty didn't do it just based off the lack of evidence and not counter evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's their plan. And then, you know, Tommy, then he gets another scene and he's questioned by the media. And he's like, first off, no plea is going to happen. We're looking for an appropriate level of justice. And they're like, well, what's that? And he's like, I don't have time for you. Actually, I do have time for you. And then he says, the lack of accountability that's going on in this town, no, the world is fucked up. The people on Wall Street, no convictions. The pharmaceutical companies on the opioid epidemic, no prison time. You think that if you're in a high enough position, you can get away with just about anything. Not anymore.
You can do and get away with just about anything. Well, not anymore. No, sir.
So he's basically telling the media, I know Rusty did it, and he's going to go down for it. That's what he was trying to do, in my opinion.
Felt like a distraction to me.
Yeah. Also, you know that saying, was it a guilty man has more to prove than a non-guilty man sort of deal? So like for him to just suddenly stop and make this statement, which almost seems like outlandish and almost condemns him because now he's the DA or whatever, right? So I thought like, that seems a little weird to just randomly throw out there.
Yeah, good point. Well, then Jules' favorite character, Delay Marblemouth, he truly does have marbles in his mouth. The more I watch this show, the more I realize
it drives me absolutely batshit.
And he was not like that on Handmaid's Tale. So I don't know what. Maybe it's like he's trying to be in character or something like that. But yeah,
it's to make people hate him. I'm convinced.
Yeah. So he's like, hey, how is this media stunt? How is this any help to us? Look, I'm good at what I do. People around here, though, seem to have a problem with me. They're picking up cues from everyone, including you, Delay. People don't respect me. Delay's like, what's happened to you in the past month? And that could have, you know, more implications that maybe he did kill Carolyn. That line right there was cool. Look, I need to be respected and I need goodwill. That's why I made the statement. His words need to mean something.
They need to understand this something is so because Tommy Malto says it's so.
But he's so fucking annoying. So annoying. I guess he's doing a
feel
good
like the
job
more
playing the
he
character.
talks, the less his words mean. Just shut up, Tommy. Just stop.
I feel like the
Anybody?
deeper we get into the season, the more he's degrading. 'Cause
Yeah.
He just kind of seemed like a
Yes.
pompous little bitch before, but now he's just slowly becoming like a loose cannon psychopath.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's gonna lead to mistakes being made on his part, and his ass is gonna get found out.
All right. Looks like Jules is sticking to her guns on this one. And then Barb's dressed up all nice. She said, "Oh, I'm just dressed up to go see my therapist." I wrote psych, but it actually was true. And then Rusty was going to leave, but he sees Kyle's bike is in the garbage. Okay. So why? Kyle calls it trash, says there was stuff wrong with it, and he wanted to just get rid of it. But we already saw Barbara cleaning this bike, frantically as hell, and now they're fucking ditching the bike. So does this put any speculation on Kyle? I mean, he takes the bike and puts it in his trunk.
I mean,
So
it
we have-
certainly
we
seems
have-
suspicious.
We haven't seen the end of this bike story. Something's going to come up with it because they wouldn't show him put it in the trunk if it wasn't going to come back later.
Everything that they're doing makes it 10 times more suspicious.
Yeah.
If you just left the bike the fuck alone,
Also,
no one would
like
think about the bike.
at the beginning of the episode, Tommy is looking through all the photos that we had seen Rusty go through,
Mhm.
and he stopped and he was looking at a couple pictures of the kid on the bike too.
Yeah.
So I did.
But I feel
Yeah.
like it looks worse to be like, oh, well, where's the bike? Oh, we threw it out or got rid of it. We just so happened to
And
get rid of it.
the hesitation in his answer too
Why is Kyle's bike in the trash?
It is trash.
to why
Yeah.
the bike was in the trash also just
Yeah, right.
I mean, who gives a shot? And the chain keeps coming loose, so I just.
Was it a
Not a good
theory
look.
that was commented this week that it was the son and the mom?
Yeah,
I
together?
think it's
Someone
the son
said
and the
some-
mom.
Someone said
So-
that. Yeah.
I definitely think it could be.
Like
Yeah.
interesting way that it could play out. I was just thinking about this while everyone was talking. Like he puts the bike just in his trunk of his car,
Yeah.
Mm.
and if it does have Carolyn's DNA on it, that means her DNA could get in his
Is
car.
now in his car, so if they
Mm,
so, like,
retest it,
But odds that they use them finding her DNA in his car, like they'll find the DNA and then they use that as a point of them trying to frame him,
Yeah.
like as their defense, because they're like, where her
Yeah.
DNA showed up like 2 weeks later after we'd already checked, kind of thing.
Yeah. And
he's
then he
just
could
gonna
put it
take
together.
because he's protecting his son.
But she
Yeah.
scrubbed down the bike. The wife scrubbed down the bike a few episodes ago.
DNA is
Right.
not easy to get rid of, though.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Well,
There might be something left.
there's a lot of little crevices on bikes and stuff.
a lot of little crevices.
All right, that's interesting. I wonder if you're right about that, Bag. I would like to see that come back to play. So then we get a quick scene with Barb and her therapist. All right, it was just a kiss. I should have told you sooner. The therapist goes, "That sounded like romantic. Didn't seem like it was just a kiss." And she's like, "Yeah, it was romantic, actually."
Yeah, I could have fuck lifted it, but I didn't.
So should she be proud of that? That's what she asked her therapist.
So you tell me, is that something I should be proud of?
So I don't know what's up with this therapist. We've seen her talk to Kyle where that went nowhere, and now she's back with just Barbara. And I'm curious to see why they're putting these scenes in there, unless, like you guys, I think Vex just said, unless the mom had something to do with it with the kid, then that would make sense to see these scenes.
So that's what this whole therapy scene said for me, and all because she goes into, I feel my
Yeah.
daughter's guilt whenever she looks at me, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird because we've barely gotten any scenes of the daughter in this show so far, and when we have, it's usually aimed towards Rusty, how she's disappointed in what Rusty did, and how she calls Rusty when what's his face comes to their house, right? So I thought that was a kind of weird thing.
She's feeling that guilt too, because
Yeah.
she knows that she's the one who actually did it.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm thinking. And then because she doesn't mention her son at all, and we've seen the son have plenty of he had a more visceral reaction when he found out about the affair compared to the sister as well. And then on top of that, she kind of undoes a lot of what she said in the first episode. So you remember she Rusty tells her he was having an affair with Carolyn a year ago and yada, yada, yada. And then she's like, I could leave you, but we have something big that we've built together and we have a lot to lose. And I want to preserve this family. And now all of a sudden it's just, I feel like I'm weak for wanting to stay and preserve that. Just, I didn't like the switch that she does, but at the same time, it also makes her seem a lot more guilty.
I mean, I also don't think it's really a stretch for her to feel both ways.
She seemed really certain though, when they presented it, but then she did like find out afterwards. It's like, oh, well, he went back and fucked her again and she was pregnant when she died.
She's very meticulous about the way she thinks. And that's part of the reason why I almost don't think it was her, because the way Carolyn was left is meticulous. Like she would have had to study up on that. But it still just feels too passionate. She would have been more calculated with it. Whatever she had would have been concrete. You know what I mean? She really thinks things through.
Like, to be fair on that point, though, because remember earlier they did say almost looked like Bunny Davis, right?
Yeah, it just feels like Carolyn's murder was something that was more heat of the moment kind of thing that was covered up by looking like the Bunny murder.
Agreed.
Not something that was pre-calculated to look like the Bunny murder.
All we know is that it looked like Bunny based on like the hog tying, and then there was like the one news report that we see in episode 1 where it says like it appears that she was bludgeoned to death kind of deal. So this point, actually, we still don't even know exactly how Carolyn died, which I think will help us all sort out our theories next episode.
If it's like that next week, we should do a theory video following that up. All right, we're getting towards the end. Raymond meets Rusty on the rooftop, and he says,
I can win this case, Rusty. You need to let me.
And like Bagface said earlier, the case is not somebody else did it, but they can't prove that you did it. They disagree on each other on this fact. Rusty seems convinced that he needs to find somebody else that they can pin it on. And Raymond's like, no, you just need to not be guilty. And then he goes, does Barb think you did it?
Does Barbara think you're guilty?
He says no.
Barbara knows that I am innocent.
I hope so. This case, it may come down to her.
Why? Are you sure? Because my wife, Lorraine, is 100% convinced that you did it. And they're close friends and they talk. So are you sure? Because we could use her on the stand. And he's like, no, she's not going on the stand. And he says she can attest for your demeanor that night, and we need to see her believing in your innocence.
That sends a message to everyone watching that she believes in you. She believes in your innocence.
That counts for something, he says.
Also, goes without saying, but I'm going to offer it all the same between now and the trial. Let's not be beating anybody else up.
I thought that was also very good advice.
It was.
Definitely don't do that.
I think it's funny, though, that I didn't realize that he said that when I wrote this note, but when, it shows Rusty and his family going to the courthouse, one of the notes I made was the lack of faith that this family has in each other is palpable.
Yes.
Like you could cut that shit with a knife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then they're going to court, like you just said, the whole family. They show him in the car, and then it kicks off with the judge calling up Tommy first, and he talks to the jury, and apparently he does a really good job based off of Rusty's reaction to it, but all he was basically doing was saying, hey, I knew Carolyn, I worked with Carolyn, she was very loved around here.
I knew her, and we all knew her. Loved by all.
And look what happened to her. Look at this grotesque image. If you were watching a show or a movie, you would turn it off because it's that bad.
But here, you must. You have to.
That happened to someone that was a good person, that was a mother.
And she had a son, Michael.
Brings up Michael. Then he's just basically trying to be like, follow the facts, but this man did it.
Carolyn, that's all she would have asked. Just be faithful to the truth.
He's like,
yeah,
he's sure, but he's trying to Jedi mind trick them a little bit into thinking that Rusty did it. So it was a good start for him, I guess, because Rusty says to end the episode.
First, I think that Tommy is also establishing a reason why he might be a little bit emotionally volatile.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the whole process of things here.
Yeah.
So just saying. Just pointing that out.
Also, it was complete opposite to how we saw Rusty giving his opening argument in the opening scene of the series. And it was very just like, don't act on your emotions. Just, I'm going to be objective. It's our job to just show you the evidence and make an unbiased decision. And then here's Tommy like,
so in the end, I won't be asking you to cry for Carolyn, though you might.
Let me pull at your heart, bro. Kind of deal.
Basically,
so
yeah. That's what he was doing the whole time.
I didn't really understand why Rusty says fuck at the end. Like, I thought his opening was pretty good, but it didn't seem...
I didn't think it was like concrete.
I
the jury's gonna go for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it felt like their defense that they are choosing to go with works perfectly against what Tommy says, because their defense is basically there's not enough evidence. And if Tommy's just acting overly emotional about the small bits of evidence, it's going to kind of work against him in a sense. I would assume in an actual courtroom setting that it wouldn't work in his favor to be emotional when the other side's just facts.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but stop.
I'm thinking like that hasn't stopped cases in the past though, right? Like one of the most famous
not
examples
wrong.
is OJ. Exactly. Yeah.
It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Absolutely
So
not wrong.
it's like I think he knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows that if I just play it the sympathy angle, I can win this, and it will look good for me as the new DA.
Like playing up those small bits of evidence they do have is going to make it seem like they have more evidence than they actually do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, all right, theory time, because the four of us can come back and do a theory video where we read your comments and your theories and speculate about them, and we all discuss them. So if you guys want those, just go crazy in the comment section and we'll make one of those. But also, best theory wins one of these. Last chance to do it. Last week, we announced the winner next week, and we will ship this shirt right to your door. So there you go. Go wild. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Later.
Bye, guys.
That counts for something. I know that much.
What just happened?
What just happened?
What just happened?
What just happened? That just happened.